Good afternoon, and welcome to today's special Resource Basket webinar, Diverting Tribal Youth, Working with the Division of Juvenile Justice. My name is Amy Gorn, and I am a team member with the Resource Basket, a training and technical assistance center for people who work with or support rural Alaska Native youth. Before we get started, I want to review a couple of things that may be helpful this hour. On the bottom of the screen, there is information to access the teleconference for today's audio, if unable to use your computer speakers. For everyone who is on the teleconference, we ask that you mute yourselves right now. You can mute yourself by pressing *6 on your phone or use your phone's mute function. Our presenters today will also be using the teleconference line, and we do not want the background noise. Also, please do not place yourself on hold, as background music may come through. If you are listening through a computer, check that the volume is turned up. We also have closed captioning available at the bottom left-hand side of the screen. We will have time at the end of the presentation to engage with your questions. Today's webinar will be recorded and made available on the Resource Basket website. All of our previous online trainings are archived at www.alaskanativeYouth.org. I will also send an email to registrants with the link to access today's recording. At the end of this presentation, you will be asked to fill out a brief online survey about it. Points of view or opinions expressed in this webinar are those of the presenters and do not necessarily represent the official position or policies of the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention or the U.S. Department of Justice. Now we'll take a look at the webinar screen. At the bottom right-hand side is the chat box. We will monitor the chat box throughout the presentation. If you are joining us online and are viewing as a group at a computer, go ahead and type in the chat box how many of you there are and where you're from, such as the Knaisi Indian tribe has already done. Thank you. If you are watching by yourself, write a hello and where you're from. That way we can get to know everyone. Now let's open a poll and try out this interaction. Using your cursor, please answer the poll. What are your thoughts on the season's first snowfall? And let's see if we can get this. There it is. So you can begin selecting, and if you're in a group, come to a consensus vote on the question, your thoughts on the season's first snowfall. What do you mean? It's already happened. Or can't wait, do you want to build a snowman? No way, I still need to swap out my seasonal gear. What's snow? Alaska doesn't get that stuff anymore. Indifferent, it will happen when it happens. Well, it looks like some parts of Alaska have certainly already had their first snowfall, which is great now that we are in the month of October. And it looks like some of us still need to prepare and switch over for the new season. Great. Thanks for trying out this poll feature, everyone. And now we're going to move on to a bit more serious question as we get to know everyone on the webinar with us. I'd like you to answer the question, does your community have an active tribal court? Answer by choosing and then clicking yes, no, not sure, we would like to, or not possible. Wonderful, we see some results coming in. I'm glad everyone's able to utilize this poll function. We'll have another one later in the presentation. We have one participant with a tribal court, one who does not, a couple that are not sure, and another that would like to. A good spread of responses there. Thank you. We are going to close out this chat and poll right now. And thank you and welcome to all those who are letting us know that you are on the webinar with us and where you're from and how many, if you have more than one, gathered with you. Our presenters today are Noelle Kennedy Torres, a Social Services Program Officer and Juvenile Justice Specialist in Juneau with the Division of Juvenile Justice, or DJJ. We also have the honor of being joined by Larita Clough, DJJ's Rural Specialist in Fairbanks. Ms. Arlene Peter of Fort Yukon is unable to join us today. However, she has prepared remarks to share from her community, which will be provided by our presenters. Before we begin, I want to give another reminder for everyone who is on the teleconference line to mute yourselves, please, if you have not already done so, by pressing *6 on your phone or using your phone's mute function. Also, please do not place yourself on hold as background music may come through. Okay, a big welcome to Noelle and Larita. Good morning. Well, I guess good afternoon, Amy. This is Noelle. We'll go ahead and start off with some introductions. Larita, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Amy. My name is Larita Clough. I'm the Rural Specialist for the Division of Juvenile Justice. I'm stationed here in Fairbanks. I've been here for 4 years, 3 years, I think. Before that, I worked as a licensing worker, social worker for OCS. That's Office of Children's Services for 25 years. And then, so what I do here as a rural specialist, I connect with the tribes and work with the probation officers in connecting with the tribes. Usually the probation officers are the ones that have youth that either go to treatment or in detention, so I usually work with villages and help with identifying services or connections, and other things I do, find tribes for other youth that are not enrolled. So those are just a few things that I do, and you can ask questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Larita. My name is Noelle Kennedy Torres, and I'm the Social Services Program Officer for the program unit located at the Division of Juvenile Justice State Offices here in Juneau. I also have the pleasure of being the State of Alaska's Juvenile Justice Specialist as a liaison with the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. While I have grown up in Southeast Alaska for most of my life, I did have the opportunity to live for several years in Fairbanks, which was wonderful. I just missed the ocean and had to come back to it. We're definitely looking forward to presenting to you today and to answering questions you may have at the end. As Amy had mentioned, unfortunately, Ms. Peter was unable to join us, but she did give us her information, which Larita and I will share with you as we continue through the presentation today. The first thing I wanted to share with you is what the Division's mission is. And the mission of the Division of Juvenile Justice is to hold juvenile offenders accountable for their behavior, promote the safety and restoration of victims and communities, and to assist offenders and their families in developing skills to prevent crime. DJJ is committing to holding the youth accountable for their actions while also protecting communities and repairing the harm to victims and working to ensure that youth gain necessary skills to function in a successful society. DJJ works very close with other divisions in our Department of Health and Social Services and with a wide range of state and local partners to provide juvenile justice services to our clients. DJJ uses a variety of graduated responses with the expectation that juveniles must personally take part in restoring and repairing harm caused to victims and communities as a result of their behavior. And one of the biggest pieces to that is the restorative justice approach that DJJ uses. A balanced and restorative justice approach to services and programming ensures that our juvenile justice offenders take personal responsibility for repairing the harm caused to the victims and communities by delinquent behavior. DJJ also works to prevent crime by supporting competency and skill development for juveniles so that they'll have alternatives to law-breaking behaviors. But we don't see all youth. We actually have a very specific jurisdiction. DJJ is a statewide jurisdiction, but the crime has to occur before the age of 18. However, we have jurisdiction over the youth until they actually turn 19. Jurisdiction is the range of judicial authority or the right and authority to administer justice by hearing and deciding over offenses. Things that our jurisdiction does not include is minor consuming, Alaska Fish and Game violations, traffic violations, including DUIs or reckless driving, and youth who are 16 or older and commit very serious offenses, such as murder or sexual assault, can receive the automatic waiver where they're automatically waived to the adult system. But one of the things that we really work on in DJJ is diversion. And so what is diversion? Diversion is managing juvenile cases with informal probation or referring to community panels. The diversion serves a number of important and valuable purposes. It helps low-risk juveniles who are unlikely to reoffend avoid the stigma and stress that can result from delinquency adjudication. It provides opportunities for community partners and victims to take more active roles in the management of low-risk juvenile offenders. And the diversion process reduces the burden on our court system, which otherwise would find it impossible to adjudicate every offender that was referred to it. It is considerably less expensive and faster than the formal adversarial court processes, and diversion processes reduce probation caseloads as well, enabling diversion to better allocate resources to staff time for more serious offenders and delinquency prevention programs. Diversion programs help to keep youth from getting more deeply involved in the juvenile justice system. And today, our main focus is on the community diversion programs that are possible with our rural communities in Alaska. So what does it look like in action? It looks like a DJJ's partnership with tribes to support local response to appropriate juvenile offenders. And it's important because it creates meaningful opportunities for community partners, victims, and for the juvenile offender. At this time, we have an interactive poll that we would like to pull forward. And if you could answer the question, what situations could a youth be diverted from in DJJ? Skipping school, stealing soda from the community grocery store, running away, physically harming another person, both answers A and B, both answers C and D, or all of the above. I'll give you just a couple of moments. Okay, I think we can probably go ahead and close out the poll. It looks like we have a lot of different answers, and I see some folks changing, and that's great. This is a wonderful opportunity for me to share that situations that youth could be diverted from DJJ include stealing soda from the community grocery store or even skipping school. Those are both opportunities for DJJ to get involved. So we can go ahead and close that poll out. Thank you. So let's talk about community diversion programs. The concepts of restorative justice reflect the values of DJJ, which have been recognizably practiced for generations by the indigenous peoples of Alaska. And these restorative justice concepts support the DJJ belief that true accountability and justice is best practiced at the most personal and culturally appropriate level. DJJ believes in and supports tribal and community restorative justice programs that address low-level juvenile delinquency at a local level and are seeking collaborative partnerships with tribal and village councils. Alaska law, as it exists today, gives jurisdiction to DJJ to respond to juvenile delinquency within the state. Under that jurisdiction, DJJ is able to develop diversion programs and partnerships to keep youth from further penetrating the juvenile justice system. Several tribes have partnered with us already to establish these community diversion panels, which support local response to nonviolent, low-level delinquency. These partnerships allow DJJ to support the local process and at the same time remain available to resume control of the case if the diversion plan is unsuccessful. The partnerships are established with DJJ through an MOU. So what is an MOU? An MOU is a memorandum of understanding. It is a document establishing an agreement between parties, in this case, a partnership between the Division of Juvenile Justice and Alaska Native Tribes and Village Councils to develop community diversion panels in an effort to prevent local youth from further involvement with the juvenile justice system. Some of the memorandums of understanding, or MOUs, currently in place are in St. Paul with the Aleut community of St. Paul, in Sandpoint with Gagan-Tayagangin tribe, Fort Yukon with the Gwich'in tribal court, Barrow with the native village of Barrow, and Nulato with the Nulato tribal court. DJJ continues to seek partnerships with Alaska Native tribes and village councils to develop additional community diversion panels in an effort to prevent local youth from further involvement in the juvenile justice system. So if you're interested, we are interested, and we're also really excited to develop these partnerships. So what steps need to be taken next? You need to contact DJJ to get an MOU and diversion packet, but even before then, you want to talk to your tribal and village councils, and it's best to identify a single point of contact for DJJ to work with. DJJ will get an MOU and diversion packet to you. The MOU outlines the responsibilities of both DJJ and the tribe and village councils. The diversion packet includes samples of the forms that the panels would use in their programs, and this information will also help encourage discussion with interested community stakeholders. DJJ will offer ongoing technical assistance and training towards the development of diversion panels. We want to continue to build and strengthen our relationships with activities to include development of community startup materials, check-ins, training and technical assistance with confidentiality, adolescent brain development, trauma-informed care, and suicide prevention. DJJ also wants to collaborate through the diversion process to include help finding resources for youth who are returning to their home communities. So once you have the diversion packet, which is available for download on this webinar presentation, you can take that information and interest to your tribal and village councils and identify your point of contact for DJJ to work with, and we can discuss any questions and concerns that you have. You then proceed to work with DJJ staff and establish a partnership, which will be finalized with a signed MOU. And once both parties have the signed MOU, we can start the training and begin to receive DJJ referrals. So at this point, I'm going to ask Loretta to come in and speak for Ms. Peter as to how DJJ and the Fort Yukon MOU took place. Loretta, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Noel. DJJ, with the probation officer Sherry Brecken and I, and the Fort Yukon tribal judges met together and talked about the getting a court going with the MOU signed. So we trained the judges in the HIPAA training. That's the, I think everyone that deals with youth or any person has to have a training on the HIPAA law. So all the judges were given the website to contact the state office for training, and they did the training online before they started their program. I know that there was just a election happening, so if there's new judges elected, they'll have to go through the training, the HIPAA training, in order for them to be ready for to take on cases. Sherry and I have traveled to Fort Yukon me a couple of times, and Sherry's been there maybe a number of times. At least all the probation officers have to travel to their designated villages every other month and work with the tribes. So now they're pretty much ready. We sent Arlene some questions. Oh yeah, they're up. So the question was, why did Fort Yukon choose to pursue the agreement with DJJ? The tribe, the judges and the tribe have a lot of their youth getting into trouble and having records that would follow them for the rest of their lives. So the tribe, what they envisioned was that the community would get involved, being part of the youth's initial contact before they get too far into their criminal records. What was the vision of the community while creating the diversion program? They wanted their youth from having records, any criminal records, so the tribe got involved and want to make sure their youth are taken care of in their communities before they're involved with the state Division of Juvenile Justice. How was their experience in working with DJJ? They mentioned Sherry and I are wonderful to work with, gave us a lot of information and very helpful. And yeah, we've been working with them on a regular basis through the phone, meeting with them as a tribe, giving them some examples of how they can work with their courts, especially when a youth first comes in, and to make it into their own village tribal court, so that the youth has a meaningful sentence, or not really a sentence, but program to follow. And those were the questions that, did I answer everything?
Yes, that was perfect. So,
their thoughts on the implementation of the agreement and the program. The tribe has been wanting this involvement for 2 years, and the tribe is grateful we finally are getting. We are actually ready to refer some cases onto Fort Yukon tribe, which will be most likely happening within the next couple of months, maybe, hopefully. So there it is.
thank you, Larita. At this point, we've come to the end of our informational PowerPoint, and we'd like to invite you, if you have any questions or comments, we'd be happy to discuss them and answer them. You can either enter them into the chat box, or you can unmute your phone lines and ask through the telephone. We welcome your questions. Oh yes, thank you. To unmute, make sure you press *6 on your phone, or again, you can type them into the chat box, either way. Well, if there are questions that you have, I see that there's a couple folks who are putting some down, but also please don't hesitate to take down our information. Myself, Noelle Kennedy Torres, is that information to contact me directly is there. Larita's direct contact information is there. And of course, our main office line, you can always contact through there. I see, why are minor consuming alcohol cases not currently part of the tribal diversion program? DJJ does not have jurisdiction over minor consuming. That goes through district court. So it is possible to work with your local district court, but that is outside of DJJ's jurisdiction. How is the MOU with the Native Village of Barrow working out? That one just got started. Actually, I believe the final executed agreement was received in July. And so now we're going to be working with the tribal court to make sure everyone has their HIPAA training, which is that confidentiality training. And we should be able to start referrals to them just as soon as that's completed. There are some steps to show that the training has been completed. You log into a joint Moodle is what it's called, website, so that they can go through the training, a certificate is received, and then they send it in to either myself or Larita or the probation officer working with the community. And once we have received those, we can start the training and working on referrals with the tribal court. Are there any other questions?
To further answer the why are the minor consuming alcohol, I know Galena State Court was working with the tribe as well, but the magistrate is no longer there that was really working with them. Fort Yukon does have a magistrate up there too that is open to working with the tribes as well.
Well, we thank you all for your time and encourage you to reach out to us on your own time as well with this contact information here. We're certainly happy to help support additional diversion programs within your rural communities and are always happy to answer questions. At this point, I would like to pass the presentation back to Amy and thank you again for taking the time to sit in with us today. Well, while we're waiting for Amy to come back, I saw an extra question. What is the typical term for the MOUs? We usually sign them and they're good for at least a year, although, you know, we can write them for longer, but we typically want to revisit them annually so that if there's new judges who've been elected, we can make sure that they've gone through the confidentiality training. Okay, well, thank you all for joining. I hope that you have an excellent day, and again, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're happy to support you. The community diversion packet should be available for you to download. Hi, everyone. This is Amy Gorn. So sorry for the confusion just a moment ago. I hope you're able to hear me. It looks like you can. I want to thank you, Noelle, Larita, and Arlene so much for sharing your knowledge and experiences with us today. And I'm sorry if anyone was unable to unmute yourself to come through on the phone line to ask a question, which is what happened in my case. Hopefully you can unmute your phone function and get through still if you have questions of Noelle and Larita, and obviously utilizing the chat box, which we have. So as Noelle mentioned, available in the box on your screen are materials provided by DJJ. It is the diversion packet with a letter and the MOU sample in there, which you're able to upload if you would like at this time. And we will also send that out afterward when we have the recording of the webinar available. I'll move this box just over for a moment. And we ask that you take a minute to answer a brief survey about this presentation. You may be redirected to these questions as you exit the webinar, and the link is live on the screen to go to those quick questions. The Resource Basket also hosts a Supporting Youth webinar series with the Alaska After School Network. Our next webinar in this series will be scheduled for late November. The topic is still being worked out and the date is still being worked out at this time. At the bottom of your screen is also a live link that will take you to our Resource Basket website where you can find additional information about upcoming opportunities. If you haven't already, like us on Facebook. Thank you again so much to the Division of Juvenile Justice for providing this very helpful and straightforward information, and we hope you'll take advantage of connecting with the staff afterward if you have additional questions or interest from communities you are a part of or connected to. And on behalf of the Resource Basket and DJJ, thank you for being here today.